calling together all amateur radio operators. This is the weekly net of the M17 Project. I am Ed, N2XDD, and I will be your net control station today. This net meets weekly on Fridays at 1700 hours at UTC by means of the M17 Charlie Reflector. The purpose of this net is to relay and share information in regards to the M17 project. M17 is a new digital radio protocol in development as an alternative to those currently available with freedom in mind. Freedom in the code, protocol, voice codecs, and hardware. The goal is to provide a better option for digital radios in the future. We encourage all amateur radio operators to check into this net. We will take check-ins as followed. We're going to take check-ins followed by an informal roundtable to discuss all things M17 related. When checking in, please push your push-to-talk button and pause approximately 2 seconds and then proceed to give the various forms of input time to catch up. And let's try and limit our total QSOs to under 3 minutes, not to time out any systems today. I will now stand by for check-ins. Please give me your call sign using proper ITU phonetics, followed by your name, location, and whether you have any information for the net.
This is Kilo Charlie 1 Alpha Whiskey Victor KC1AWV Steve in Boston, Massachusetts. No traffic.
November 8 Victor November Romeo Kevin in North Carolina. No traffic.
November 7 Tango Alpha Edward N7TAE in Arizona. No traffic.
India Uniform 2 Kilo Whiskey Oscar Silvano from north of Italy. No traffic.
This is K9FH Kilo 9 Foxtrot Hotel Phil near Chicago. No traffic.
This is November 2 Golf Yankee November John, Long Island, New York. No traffic.
This is India Uniform 2 Kilo India November Niccolò Milano, Italy. No traffic.
Sierra Papa 5 Whiskey Papa, Wojciech from Central Poland. No traffic for now.
Okay, gentlemen, let's stop it there. Net Control wishes to recognize Steve KC1AWV. Steve, I'm going to designate you as alternate Net Control station for today's session, if that's okay with you. Kevin, N8VNR. Tom, N7TAE. I'm sorry, IU2KWO. I'm sorry, I missed your call sign. Your name, rather. Can you please come back with it and whether you have traffic or not? Okay, we'll circle back around. Phil, K9FH, John, and TGIF, thank you. Nicolo, thank you for checking in from Milan today. And Wojciech, SP5WWP. Do I have any further check-ins for this week's session of the M17 Project Net? Please come now. Okay, our open RTX people, do we have any updates this week that you would like to share with us?
India Uniform 2, Kilo India November.
Go ahead, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. So, this week has been quite interesting because the support for M17 on the MD380 and MD-UV380, which will be the two radios that first will get the support for M17, is getting closer because we are working on several fronts in parallel, let's say. We are trying to consolidate the audio path required to modulate M17 on those radios. We Unfortunately, those audio paths requires some hardware modification to be performed on the radios. This week, thanks to the help of Caleb, which is a new contributor, we confirmed the audio path for the UV380, which unfortunately require the modder to desolder the antenna connector and access the RF part of the PCB, which is on the back, and to pull a wire from the back side to the front side, which is not, it takes some time. It takes half an hour for someone averagely skilled, I would say, and but in the end, you need even in that radio just to pull a wire, remove a capacitor, remove bridge a diode, and that's it. So we have confirmed the audio path for those radios. We will provide soon, later, probably in the weekend, some detailed guide with pictures so that all of you can have an idea of how what is the difficulty of the mod. And so we are facing the remaining issues of for example, being able to normalize the output signal in the MD380. But all in all, if I can take an estimate, I believe that in 2 weeks from now, we might be able to do M17 transmission. So this is it for our contribution. If you have any questions, or otherwise, I will get back control to you, net control.
Okay, Nico, thank you very much for that very informative update in regards to the Open RTX progress on the MD380 being that much closer to mod and demodding the M17 codec. So, does anybody have any questions or comments? Please come now.
Sierra Papa 5, Whiskey Papa.
Well, I was waiting for you. What took you so long? Go ahead, Wojciech. It's all yours.
Hey, Ed. So I just wanted to add that I'm helping guys from OpenRTX with some DSP stuff, DSP related. So filtering for the MD380 for the compensation of the PWM filter. So I'm working on it very hard every day with the unit control.
Well, thank you for that. I want to recognize your contribution to the Open RTX project and their contribution to the M17 project. So Everybody seems to be working hand in hand with various components of one another's projects, and that's how we get things done in an open source community. This is N2XTD Net Control Station for this week's session of the M17 Project Weekly Net. Do I have any late check-ins or anybody with questions, comments, or any other traffic? Please hold Net Control.
KC1AWV.
KC1AWV. Go ahead, Steve.
As you know, I always have my 2 cents that I want to put in. Just a couple things that I wanted to bring up that came up last week, and, well, over the past week, actually. There have been comments about the audio quality that is coming through M17, and people are having a hard time hearing some people, or some people are just coming through too loudly, or it seems to be that the codec is what people are thinking that the issue is, and through the testing that I've done on M17, and specifically actually the codec 2 codec, it's very sensitive to any sort of non-voice noise that might be in the background. It also requires a specific level. I believe that there's a minimum level that is required for it to drive the codec properly, and sometimes if it's overdriven, it'll clip and cause some other issues. What I want to invite people to do is to actually go onto YouTube, if you would like, and search for the M17 Project. And we're actually always live streaming. Well, I don't want to say always, but I do my best when it comes to it, live streaming the audio from the net. So you can get a good idea of what it sounds like from one of the M17 clients. Give me just a second to pause while I don't time out, or so I don't time out. I should probably keep a better eye on the frame counter, like Kevin had suggested. But yeah, so there's a live stream on YouTube that you can always go to and take a listen to see how your audio sounds across the at least the DudeStar client and the M17 network. It's even though we have analog connections into the M17 network, which is what I'm using right now, at least the client will hear nothing but M17. So you'll hear what your audio sounds like through the network. I think that's all I really wanted to cover was the live stream and some concerns about the audio quality. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Net Control. This is KC1AWV.
Okay, Steve, thank you for the update there in regards to the question that was brought up last week. And I also want to thank you for the work you've done in the last couple of weeks with bringing M17 to the ASL network. So I appreciate it, as do everyone else in the community. Everyone's hard work here is recognized and appreciated by one and all. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Steve?
Are you 2KIN?
2KIN. Are you 2KIN? Please come now into XDD Net Control.
Thank you, N2XCD. Yeah, I have a question for Steve. So, I mean, the question of the audio quality is very important. Also, when I use other non-free protocols like DMR, it's very annoying to hear different audio levels and forcing you to adjust manually the volume knob. So I'm asking to you if there is something that we can do in the OpenRTX firmware to try to solve this issue. So maybe we can come up for some sort of graphical representation, be it a simple microphone view meter or some other maybe characteristic, for example, signaling if there is a background noise or I mean, is there something that we can implement in our firmware to enhance, to be able to produce a more uniform modulation among all the different users, at least the one which can use our firmware. But I believe that's something that holds for all the different clients of M17. It's just that we will make one, and we will be the maintainer of one of them. So I want to take this in charge. So to you, Steve.
So yeah, there was actually a couple of interesting ideas that came up, and having a VU meter on the radio, I could see that being useful for, say, something like a mobile or a base station, but on an HT, I don't really have ever seen a VU meter, on the display, and, a lot of HTs don't even have displays. You just basically have a frequency, counter, or not a counter, but a frequency display on the radio, or even just, the channel name kind of thing. But one of the ideas that I kind of had, and I think Kevin was also talking about this as well, was having some sort of gain control or level control, either an AGC, ALC kind of thing, built into M17 to normalize the audio. So if it's too hot, it'll compress it. If it's too soft or too quiet, then try to add some gain to it. But the issue is that when you start messing with the levels as they're coming out of the ALC or AGC, it could still be a poor quality audio signal. It's one of those things that's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't have a quality microphone or a quality speaker, you're going to run into some issues because you got a hardware limitation there. So I'm willing to explore any ideas that people may have. I'm always in the chat, unless I'm overburdened with work from the day job like I had been for the past couple of days. But hopefully this weekend I can, kind of poke around a little bit and see what I can come up with for, what would be considered a good audio level from, a client or an HT into the M17 software or, codec 2 or what have you. So I have a feeling that I'm starting to waffle on a little bit, so I'll go ahead and pass it back to Net Control. This is KC1AWV.
Okay, Nico, I hope that answered your question for Steve. So it looks like something else that can be played around and developed in the future to get a more universal sounding signal from all the different clients that are coming into M17. Well, once again, this is N2XDD Net Control Station for this week's Net. Do we have any late check-ins or anyone with questions or comments? Please come now.
And TGIF was a comment, as usual.
M17AE with a comment.
Okay, Tom, N17AE, you are recognized. N2GYN, John, you came in first, so we're going to pass it over to you, John. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. I have a question maybe someone could answer. I'm running Dude Star to get into M17. I have no other means to really access M17 except for Dude Star. But I also run a software which is BlueDV. And the BlueDV, I tend to use the hardware vocoder, and I use the software vocoder in the BlueDV or Droid Star. I've done some experimenting, and not here. And this is my question. I can go on, let's say, TGIF, and another friend of mine, we've been running these experiments, and we can just go back and forth on a TGIF group, one using Dude Star, and then switching to BlueDV. They're all using the same codecs, but I notice a difference. We both notice a difference in audio quality. So it would say to me something within BlueDV versus Dude Star is different in the sense of one sounding clearer, a little bit more fidelity than the other. So the levels are different, but when you match those levels, it still is a difference as far as one better than another. Could anybody tell me what is each one doing different for that to happen? N2G1.
All right, can anyone answer John's question?
Well, it looks like no one can, and I had that feeling. There's more to this that meets the eye. I know nothing, so, but both programs basically using the same codecs, and you match audio levels, and one sounds better than the other. There's obviously some element that is responsible for that. N2G1.
Okay, John. Well, thank you for your question, and I'm sure somebody will get back to you at some point. I can almost hear the wheels turning in the background. So, with that, we're going to pass it over to Tom, N7TAE.
Hey guys, I had questions for David Rowe about this. I specifically asked him what volume level, what amplitude level should be presented, should the codec be presented with to give the best possible performance of the codec. And he said basically a good thing to shoot for is about half of a 16-bit 800 kilohertz or 8,000 kilohertz, 8,000 hertz stream. So plus and minus 15 bits would be suitable for input. But he said it should work equally well at significantly lower volume levels, based on I think what he said was based on the energy spectrum that's calculated from the audio stream. So that's relevant to what we're talking about. The other thing I would say is these are very interesting questions, and I think there's a lot. It has a lot to do with the audio handling capability of the software. I think, I'm a D-Star person, and I listen to a lot of D-Star, and I think some of the best audio streams I've ever heard on D-Star are from Kenwood radios, not ICOM radios. I think they do a better job of handling the audio sections. They're obviously still using the same codec, presumably nearly identical codecs licensed from the guys that own it. But let me drop it, and I got one more comment. So my input is that audio handling of the audio stream is critical, and it can really screw up the encoding process, especially if there's certain kinds of noise, and I don't know what those certain kinds are. I don't really have any idea. And I don't know if, I've never actually used DudeStar, so I don't know if there's an echo function, and I don't know how it works, but the echo function in my program, mVoice, takes the audio, encodes it to M17 packets, stores that on the disk, and as soon as you drop the push to talk, it takes those M17 packets and decodes them and turns them back into audio to play them back to you. So you're going through both encoding and decoding processes on the echo function, so you can hear exactly what everybody else should hear. What your voice should sound like, you know, with the obvious caveat that they're listening through a different audio system than you're listening through. So I think that's critical, that you're happy with the way your echo sounds before you go online and start talking. Anyway, that's it for my comments. Back to net control.
Okay, Tom, thank you for that. Does anybody have anything they'd like to respond to Tom with? Please come now.
Yes, N2GYN.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, I would like to concur with Tom. I run a Facebook group page for the Kenwood D-Star HT, and he is absolutely correct, and I agree. Why does the Kenwood HT sound so much better than any other audio I've ever heard on D-Star? I don't care what mic you use. I don't care if you use an equalizer. I don't care if you try to enhance it. There is a definite quality difference on D-Star with the Kenwood HT. No one can explain this to me, and I'm wondering if it's some of the same issues here that I see the difference between DudeStar and Blue DV even. So I would just like to concur and confirm what Tom was saying about the Kenwood. N2GYN, back to net control.
Okay, John, thank you for that follow-up. This is N2XDD Net Control Station for this week's M17 Project Weekly Net. Do we have anyone else with any questions, comments, or any late check-ins? Please come now.
N8 Vienna.
N8 VNR, Kevin, it's all yours.
Yeah, it's just sort of a follow-on to that the note about the different HT models and like that. And even though it's using the same vocoder, I've run into a lot of people talking about the same thing on DMR versus Fusion. YSF and DMR all use the same vocoder, the MV+2, and I've had people swear up, down, left, right, and sideways that Yaesu's audio is just so much better and yada yada yada. And so it's clearly something they are doing on the radios themselves and the audio processing or what have you, because it really is the same vocoder under the hood. But in terms of M17, since we're here to talk about that, and Tom mentioned the echo test feature within mVoice, And I know on a couple of the other modes, there's this notion of an echo test server, basically something that sits out there and does the record off the, in our case, I guess it would be off the reflector, and then plays it back. I wonder how difficult it would be to create a bot of sorts, an echo test service that could sit on like module E for echo or what have you, and listen for up to 30 seconds of audio and spit it right back out, so that these clients that don't have it built in, and then potentially, actual HTs later on, you'd be able to get a good sense of what you sound like on the path. I'm not much of a developer, so I don't know. I could be asking for the moon and the stars, but just kind of want to throw that out there as a suggestion for somebody who might be able to go, oh yeah, that should be easy to crank out. And APR back to that.
Okay, Kevin, thank you for your input there. Guys, I'm going to have to bail. I'm going to pass it over to my alternate net control station, KC1AWV, Steve. Steve, thanks for picking it up. This is N2XDD. I'll try and get back in here from the car in a little bit. Steve, back over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a problem, Ed. This is KC1AWV, alternate net control for the M17 Project Net. And while I have the microphone, I just want to make a couple of comments here. I got a note here from Doug, 88DP, who's the developer for the DudeStar program. He's saying that John was describing a scenario where he's using a hardware ambivocoder versus a software ambivocoder, and there will be some differences there. So one of the things that we gotta understand that when we're testing various systems, the only consistent piece of technology that is across the whole system is the voice codec. So when you're doing like DMR and Fusion and P25, they're all similar vocoders. All right, so that's easy. That's our kind of that's kind of a baseline. But now you're going to also enter in the programs that are running it, the quality of the equipment that's running it. Like I was saying earlier, garbage in, garbage out. If you have a really crap mic, it's going to sound like crap on the air. And that's when you run into things like I can tell the difference even on analog. I can tell the difference between a inexpensive Chinese radio versus a fairly expensive and well-made Chinese radio, I suppose. American components, Russian components, all made in Taiwan. So the variable that we're running into is the actual hardware that's being used. So if you got a really good microphone, Kenwood's always been great for the quality of their hardware. So except for the 71 handheld, I have some problems with mine. But Kenwood's always had really good quality. ICOM's been okay quality in my experience. And it seems as though that Yaesu's kind of in the same boat as ICOM for me. This is all subjective as far as my opinions on that, but again, if the only variable that we can really see and will make a huge difference is that the hardware is going to be different. So you might not have the same headset as somebody. You might not have the same microphone. As a matter of fact, I'm coming through a telephone in order to get into the M17 net. I'm using a desk phone on my desk at the office. So my equipment's completely different from anything that Ed's using, and Ed sounds great. Kevin, you're a little bit hot, but I think that's because you're loud like I am. Tom is great through the client, but when I hear him on Allstar, it seems to be a little bit hot. I'm going to pause for just a second. So yeah, going on. Tom, is perfect on the client because I can hear the client and I can also hear it through Allstar. Allstar seems to be clipping on Tom, on John, and the station K9FH. Those are all hot as far as Allstar is concerned. But when I'm listening to them on the client, it's nice and loud and very clear. So I think that's when we're breaking it down, I'm using the same codec, but I got different hardware when it comes to the analog side of it. So I may need to turn the gain down a little bit or increase the gain a little bit for other people. So that's where I'm running into, having some sort of ALC or AGC built into M17 so that we can normalize that audio that's being sent across. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So I will go ahead and open it up for any late check-ins or anybody with questions or comments for the net. This is KC1AWV Net Control.
And TGIF, additional comments, of course.
Right, N2GYN, John, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I want to address 2 things. First, thank Doug for chiming in on that. But I'm very aware of what he's saying. But our test, myself, with K9FH, and we're talking about hours of testing and combos, we at times will put the hardware ambi chip on DudeStar and listen. And so I understand what he's saying. Yes, when you use the vocoder, like an MB3000, it does outperform the software for the most part. But we are aware of that, so we put the DudeStar using the MB3000, and it's still the same result as far as the quality. The other thing I wanted to mention, I forgot who it was, the gentleman that mentioned about the different modes and talked about Fusion being the best. Yeah, well, we're not talking about bandwidth. Fusion will always have the potential of being the best because of the bandwidth. Although, on repeaters, they limit it. You could run Fusion in both wide and narrow. And if anybody's ever heard Fusion with 2 radios that are on wide, it is a marvel to listen to. Almost sounds like FM. But nobody runs it that way because the standard is to run Fusion on narrow. But anyway, so given those 2 things, so I just wanted to state, and so Doug can hear, yes, we've taken that element into consideration, and still even running hardware like an ambi chip on a DudeStar, the Blue DV has better fidelity. Back to net control and to GYN.
Hey, this is KC1AWV Net Control for the M17 Project Net. We do have a couple of more comments that were addressed to, I think, me specifically, because I'm running the M17 to Allstar bridge, and he's telling me about adjusting the gain for people coming in off of the M17 network into Allstar. So I probably need to just make a few adjustments in the software for me. And just a couple things I wanted to make mention. I mean, we're talking about M17 specifically on this net. There is no hardware vocoder for M17. It's using software codec too. We don't rely on ambi, so doing ambi troubleshooting on the net is probably not something that would really be able to be done on this net. But if you are having some ambi issues, you might get in touch with somebody that knows a bit more about DMR and Fusion and the other ambi modes. But the thing that we're trying to address is just the levels, and making sure that the levels for M17 are appropriate. And I agree with Doug with his comments, that it seems to be, I just need to make a small adjustment in my configuration to kind of bring down that audio level for what I would consider the standard audio level is Tom, because it's significantly clearer on the DroidStar and the mVoice clients. I'm actually going to use that as a baseline because the drive seems to be just at the what I would consider a 0 dB level. So I'm not going to get into that, but it's I'm going to use that as a baseline and make my adjustments to the Allstar system based on that. So all right, and all right. Well, I'll go ahead and pass it back to anybody that's wishing to check in. Are we having any late check-ins, or do we have any stations with further comments for the net? This is KC1AWV Net Control.
Sierra Papa 5.
Sierra Papa 5, Whiskey Papa. You told me I pronounced your name wrong the last time, so I'm not going to even bother saying it. But go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I just wanted to add that I'm about to set up a repeater close to Warsaw, about 40 kilometers from Warsaw. There's a chimney about 120 meters high in my town, and I'm going to use it probably. So I'm trying to check what the cost of renting some small area below the chimney, and I have asked how it even works, how to put a rack mount or something like that that's waterproof and it can stay 24/7 on the spot. And there's a problem because the chimney is more than 100 meters high, and I'm going to need more than 100 meters of wire, not wire but cable, coax. So that's at least 6 dB of loss just in the cable. So I'm going to use some high quality cable right there. So that's about it. I want to set up a repeater close to Warsaw. Back to you, Net Control.
Well, I think we may have our first taker on Jonathan's challenge for people setting up a repeater for M17. Do we have any questions or comments for that topic? Oh, shoot, I didn't hit the right button. Any questions or comments for the repeater in Warsaw?
Just one question. How many people are likely to use it? How many people within its footprint will have the capability to use that repeater? How busy will it be, do you think? M17 AE.
Well, my repeater should be accessible from the whole Warsaw, so the whole city. That's a lot of hams, and it's the capital city of Poland. So maybe not in my city, not in my town, because it's small and there are about 5 or 6 hams right here, and none of them is really interested in M17. But Warsaw is in vicinity and should be really interested in testing M17.
You know what I'm thinking is that it's going to be one of those field of dreams situations. If you build it, they will come. Nothing better than exposure when it comes to running a repeater, especially when we're trying to put out something brand new. So, Tom, I hope that answers your question. The way I see it is, if people have the impetus to go ahead and build a radio to work with M17, they know that there's something that they can talk to rather than just themselves. I think that'll garner more interest. So I think that's the at least that's my driving force for building a repeater up here in New England. So that's my idea. So do we have any other questions or comments or late check-ins for the net? This is KC1AWV Net Control.
Just one more question for Wojciech. Is this new repeater going to link to a reflector M17AE?
Well, right now I just want to run M17 via radio frequency, so RF only. No linking right now, I think. I'm just going to use some old Motorola's modded by me, and let's see if it works.
Yeah, it seems to be one of those things where it's we want to test it out on the air before we connect it to RF, even though I'm kind of going against that by having an Allstar Node actually transmitting this net. Granted, it's only within a 15-mile radius of my lab, but it's still transmitting. So if anybody's driving by or watching the waterfall, they'll be able to see that there's a frequency on 2 meters that's being used. Alrighty. Yeah, we seem to be having a pretty good net here. I'll go ahead and open it up again. This is KC1AWV Net Control, looking for any late check-ins or comments for the net.
IU2KIN here, if I can make another update regarding both OpenRTX and M17.
UKIN, by all means, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to say that with another Italian ham, which is called whose call sign is IW0. Sorry, India Whiskey Zero, Romeo, sorry, Echo Delta. We are also a bit with the MMDVM and M17. We want to bring up another repeater. He is located in the so. Hopefully, he also has an MD380 at hand, so hopefully we will be able. Sorry, my PQT keeps disconnecting on DroidStar iOS. So we'll be experimenting with M17 and
Nico, I think we lost you there for just a second. If you want to come back with the final statements that you were making, this is KC1AWV Net Control.
yeah, sorry for the bad quality. I ran out of battery, so I switched to iOS DroidStar, but it not works very well on my phone. But get in touch to fix it. By the way, I was telling that we are experimenting with MMDVM and M17 also with this other ham in the center of Italy, and he's the maintainer of a large network of repeaters. Right now, these are both DMR repeaters and analog repeaters, but he wants to replace all the DMR in his network with M17. For sure, I believe that we will see in the following months lots of people trying to build up repeaters. So I believe that we are kind of on the verge of a moment where the repeater will start popping up. People will start wondering, oh, how can I transmit on that repeater, that new repeater? And then hopefully the MD380 will be able to do M17 and will become an available way of transmitting on those new repeaters. Again, sorry for the dropping of connection from before, and this is it on my side.
Hey, that's not a problem at all. We were able to understand you completely this time. Do we have any questions or comments about this that was just brought up? This is KC1AWV, Net Control.
Sierra Papa 5 to Wojciech, I've got something to add.
I'm going to start calling you Columbo, Just one more thing. Go ahead.
Okie dokie. What I want to do is to start up a repeater, set it up maybe in my city or in Warsaw just for testing purposes, and take two MD380s, leave one with my wife at home, and take the other and go for a walk and test the setup. So this is what I wanted to do. Back to you, Net Control.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really good. And I do remember the last time that you went out with your radio and was doing some testing. I like the photos that you sent over to me, so I appreciate that. And all right, I'll go ahead and open it up one more time for any late check-ins or comments for the net. This is KC1AWV.
Okay, Sierra Papa 5 once more.
Combo.
I've got a question for IU2KIN. Are you able to get a stronger signal from QO100?
Okay, so IU2KN here. As Wojciech introduced, I'm trying my brand new setup. Actually, brand new is a little. It's funny because like the dish is from the 90s and the LNB also, but it appears to still work well. And I'm trying to align it. And I don't have a real magnetic compass in my home, and apparently my phone, every time I ask him the compass, it says like a different degree and varying with like 10 degrees between one measurement and the other. So once this will be complete, I will be able to also receive, I will be a receiving station for the M17 tests over the QO100. And hopefully, since I've proven that the RX work, I will also buy in and purchase a transmitter so that we can have QO100 QSO also outside of Poland, since the only two which tried right now are in the same country, which is funny. To you, Wojciech.
Okay, one more question. What software do you use to plot the spectrum?
Okay, IU2KN here. I'm using the SDR Angel SDR client, which is the one I'm most familiar with. I recommend it. It's very hard to compile because it's made up of tons of different plugins. But once you make it work, it's very direct and efficient. I don't know, maybe in the future I can develop an M17 plugin for that since it has a very nice plugin system. But I'm planning to switch to maybe GNU Radio for to be able to receive also M17. But I mean, to validate the setup, I use SDR Angel. I think back to net control maybe.
I appreciate that. And I'm hoping that the comment about the dish being from the 90s is not going to be a comment about something being old. I mean, I'm only from the 80s, so I don't think I'm that old. All right, one more time. Any questions, comments for the net today? And if there's anybody wishing to check in, please call now. Well, nothing heard. Ed, N2XDD, are you back yet, or do you want me to? Well, if I don't hear anything from Ed, I'll go ahead and close out the net. And I'm sorry for stepping on you, Wojciech. If you want to make a comment, go ahead.
No, thanks. I think it's enough, and I have to leave. So see you later. 73.
All right, 73 for the night. I appreciate you coming in and talking to us on the net. All right, one call, N2XDD KC1AWV. Are you back on net?
I'm sorry, Steve. Would you mind closing it out for me? Thank you. I really appreciate it. I owe you a beer or two. N2XDD.
I do have a feeling that we're going to be passing around quite a few beers for all the things that we've been doing with, for M17 between the two of us at least. All right, so I'll go ahead and close out the net for tonight, or, well, I say tonight, but it's still afternoon here. I want to thank all these stations. We had 9 check-ins today for participating and supporting the net. Your help in maintaining this net is appreciated by one and all. If you would like further information about the M17 project, I'm sure that you are aware of our website. It's M17Project.org, and you can also join us on IRC or Matrix or Discord. All the links are there on the website, and you can keep in touch in real time with everybody that's working on the M17 project. This is Steve, KC1AWV. The net is now secure at the 16th day of April 2021 at, oh my goodness, I have to calculate this out. It should be 1600 hours UTC. And be returning the reflector back to regular amateur use. 73 from me, KC1AWV, clear. I have a correction. It's 1800 UTC, not 1600. I don't know how to do math. KC1AWV, clear.